Accents and Arts is an art deco fabrication shop that creates metal works for housing, interior decoration, and the fine arts industries.
Accents and Arts typically is into production. We have 3 different departments: welding, carpentry, and then spraying and finishing techniques. Most of our products end up typically on construction sites. So we're working on major projects such as hotels, doing a lot of corporate offices. Then we're doing very high-end homes. Our pieces are found everywhere, really. Everywhere that there's the need for very fine craftsmanship, you will find us. Our products tend to be broad. Typically, we have clients who'd submit working drawings. So those would come typically from architects and interior designers. And we're requested to read the blueprints and build. Then we also have clients who come in and say that because of your art background, you design, you create, and you build.
The workforce coming out of technical and vocational schools needs to be prepared for the realities of working in industry. And for Ms. Swanica, the opportunity to expand the on-the-job training she was giving her workers came in the form of an SDF grant.
As the business grew, the demands from industry and the requests became more and more, and we realized that our artisans lacked critical skills. For instance, a lot of the artisans that were coming in were clueless about the rudiments of industry, that health and safety is paramount. Understanding how to take measurements, understanding, what a typical production flow would be. And then we also had students coming in from the universities who also, even though they could read blueprints, didn't know how to build. So we realized that there was a huge skill gap between these 2 divides, that it presented the opportunity to set up a training institute to fill this void, which was very critically needed. A friend of mine mentioned that since you're into training, there's a fund that is specifically meant to target the skills sector and the skill gap. And it was called the Skills Development Fund. So I thought that how appropriate. I mean, this is exactly the wording, exactly geared towards our need. And then I saw a newspaper ad with explaining the whole application process. And we put in an application, and I thought, oh wow, as usual, this is a government fund. There's no way we would get this grant. And we did. It was such a godsend intervention. When we got the funding, for the first time, it allowed us to design and develop curriculum that we could use to teach. Curriculum that allowed us to bring in other industry partners. For instance, we did a bit of entrepreneurship. How do you cost? A client comes in with an order. The soft skills that you needed to know, measurement taking, when you read the blueprints, understanding these things. So the mechanical engineering side of what happens in production, understanding production processes and all sorts. We were able to buy some equipment, which we needed for demonstration purposes. We were able to buy raw materials that students could, And so that year, our intake went typically from, say, 50 students to 160. They came across from all divides, some from the community, some from the tertiary institution. Even though the students also benefited, we as a company as well, I must say that till today, we still are benefiting from the ripple effects of, the policies and the training that was put in place for us.
My life has changed because I sent this nice place and I can create a certain design. If Madam sees, oh wow, this is nice, you should use this design to work.
In Accents and Arts, I've learned a lot of things compared to my previous workplace. Like I've learned how to use new machines and also about health and safety. And I think it has helped me a lot. Some tools like the power machines, like the cutting machines. In my previous workplace, we don't use those machines there. But I think I came to Accents and Arts and I was taught how to use those machines. Coming to our safety and our health, they gave me the protective clothing. They make sure that I'm in my PPE always when I'm working.
Some of these interventions, are so important because for the typical SME, your focus is how do I pay my bills? The last thing you're thinking of is how do I bring in a consultant to draft a health and safety policy, even though the labor law requires that your workers work in a safe environment. So you know, these interventions are so critically important because then it allows us the room to grow, because it brings in interventions which would also take us to that next level, which would make us attractive to investors and to debt or equity or whatever. So I would, you know, encourage the government to continue to support SMEs by way of some of these grants that are available for us to tap into.
The SDF Fund Phase 1, 2011 to 2016, was funded by the Government of Ghana, the World Bank, and the Government of Denmark. The Skills Development Fund is in its second phase and is funded by the Government of Ghana and the Government of Denmark as part of its support to private sector development. Apply for Skills Development Fund assistance. Visit www.sdfghana.org.